if you had to go speak to a Texas representative tomorrow and he's 65, 70, 75 years old and he's like, nuclear, isn't that a bomb? Like, how would you describe the difference between what we have today and then what a bomb is?
There's the nerdy answer and there's the non-nerdy answer.
Let's go
and
non-nerdy to nerdy.
Yeah, I think because the non-nerdy answer is probably the thing that's going to be the most effective. It's just as simple as, hey, to even get to that level, to produce a nuclear bomb, it requires an entire aspect of our supply chain. It's not just a dirty bomb that terrorists can get their hands on and all of a sudden, jerry rig and then boom, they have an atomic bomb. There's immense, very sophisticated science and processes that go into making an atomic bomb. And that requires, one, for civilian use, commercial use, for electricity, uranium is enriched to 5%. We call LEU, low enriched uranium. To get to levels of enrichment where you'd make an atomic bomb is like 90 to 95%, and maybe even higher. And you also need plutonium. So
you don't need plutonium at all for these reactors?
These reactors do have plutonium. Plutonium can come out of a reactor, technically. A breeder reactor. We'd never commercialize a breeder reactor. But it's... Oof. That one is one where... I'm just saying this right now because it might have to be something I have to go back on. Because it is a little touchy point. But I'll keep on speaking because it could still potentially be used. So, yes. Plutonium can come out of a breeder reactor. We never commercialized and scaled breeder reactors. Breeder reactors were actually what we were supposed to scale back in 1960. That was supposed to be the golden triumph of nuclear. Light water reactors just launched and scaled because they were the first thing demonstrated, and sometimes first to the commercial markets. You demonstrate a positive outcome. Therefore, again, the narrative wins, right? Energy too cheap to meter, boom, there goes water reactors. And also, the Navy was doing, they had their Navy reactor program, and obviously Navy, water, surrounded by water, so it kind of just made sense. And the general who pushed nuclear into the scene, Admiral Rickover, obviously good friends with Eisenhower, so it kind of,
They won the contracts.
Yeah, they won the contracts. But, okay, so to go back to my point, yes, plutonium can be a byproduct in breeder reactor. We don't have plutonium coming out of any of the reactors right now. It can come out of reprocessing as well, one of the actinides. But then again, you still have to enrich to a certain level. And then there's a whole sort of mechanisms that come in to this. So I know that's crazy. That was the not so nerdy answer. It still takes some time to explain.
No, it's good. I've always been curious because I've always wanted to know.
Yeah.
It feels to me that both the futurists, let's say like the people building large like data centers and wanting to build, super intelligence or general intelligence, and the environmentalists who want like steady state economics and who want zero growth and blah, 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 they both seem to think we're on the cusp of an energy crisis, and their solutions for those are two different things. Like environmentalists like kill all the humans, or we shouldn't keep eating, or don't eat meat, blah, blah, blah. And environmentalists are like, let's go to nuclear, let's like get good energy.
Yeah.
Why? I don't think anybody on the street, if we go and say what's up to them, is going to be like, yes, we're on this precipice of an energy crisis. Like, what is going on? Why do we need all this energy?
Yeah, so there's, and I won't say purely environmentalists, and I say that because environmentalists have actually bifurcated into two different groups. There is a set of environmentalists that believe in abundance, and that is what they're going for. And there's groups like American Conservation Coalition, and other think tanks like Abundance Institute, And they're actually pushing for, abundance, a rethink, a more pragmatic rethink on how we scale energy. And then there's the traditional groups like Sierra Nevada Club, Greenpeace.
Shout out to the homies. I grew up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So
okay, yeah. There's a handful of groups historically that, and NGOs that have been major proponents, not the sole inhibiting force. I want to correct that, but have been a big force in withholding the rise of nuclear. And so,
dude, this is like a weird personal story, but like there was this woman who she was either like worked for Sierra Nevada or for there's another group in the area where I grew up that is named after like a wildlife photographer.
Yeah.
But I remember literally after Fukushima, her coming to our classroom and talking about how she's taking iodine pills. And then now to fast forward to in California, right? And then to fast forward to today and to know that like only one person died like 10 years later from cancer from Fukushima.
Yeah.
Is crazy to me to think that like she was propagating this narrative to a bunch of 16, 17-year-olds who were like as if it was like completely true, verifiable, and you should be afraid, you need to be taking iodine pills.
Yeah.
And then now looking back, it's like one person literally that was there on site died.
Yeah, here's the crazy thing. Everyone forgets that at Fukushima, there was a tsunami.
Yeah.
I don't it's just wild to me. And that's something that was very public. Mm-hmm. And Fukushima became a scare. Mm-hmm. And yes, there was some like destabilized meltdown. I don't know if it would be considered a full meltdown. We considered it a meltdown then. But even then, doesn't that kind of show like how sturdy a reactor can be? A full-on tsunami and this is terrible. Every life matters, mm-hmm. but only one person succumbs to what we thought felt like thousands of lives, mm-hmm. but no, most people just succumb to nature and the crazy force that it can be. Tsunami.
And even with the tsunami, I think there was some human error there, right? Like, didn't have the option of being able to do something, and then the structure of the Japanese government, they felt like they couldn't make the decision, and then so it wasn't made, and then,
It was, they had parts that were outdated. Mm-hmm. Similar to Chernobyl. Mm-hmm. Chernobyl that was part of the reason why Soviet Union, I won't say Russia today, but the Soviet Union then, or USSR, withheld information because it was the reason why the reaction, the meltdown, the explosion happened was because of cheaper parts. And they had different design of reactors. And something about the tips of the rods. And so it was just basically, as soon as those conditions, it had to be the exact perfect conditions for that kind of like blow off the cap. Mm-hmm. And even then, Chernobyl, not nearly as much people have died as it was said. Mm-hmm. And actually, this is crazy. And this is another thing that people don't realize about just nuclear energy, or actually just nuclear. Let's just talk about nuclear, not even energy. But a lot of people who actually had cancer, the data came out later, and that their cancer was in remission. Yeah. So a lot of and this actually points out an even more important point. And I try to tell my friends this a lot, who are just, smart in what they do, but they're not very, like understanding of like what's going on with nuclear energy. They know what everybody else knows, right? For the most part. And it's that the medical isotopes, a lot of our cancer treatments, a lot of our treatment just in health, a lot of our equipment in medical devices, they're medical isotopes that come from nuclear reactors. So, I try to tell people, and this will definitely take some time for people to digest, but stop looking.
What's the half-life? Just kidding.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. Take a little shot of gin, and some uranium. You'll have a great night. I don't know how long the rest of whatever is gonna last. Probably scrap that, but but anyways, no. But what I was gonna say is that we need to look at nuclear as what it is, a reaction that happens at the molecular level. Same thing as like what happens at combustion, you know, the internal combustion engine. So when a plane blows up or somebody fly kamikaze style, do we say that we're gonna stop using engines? Because that's what it is, chemical reaction. So like when bombs happen, do we say we're going to stop using ICE or anything else that requires a chemical reaction? No, it should be framed as more nuclear is just a more intimate and closer and better understanding of physics and a more intimate control of like nature. Like we're just going lower to the atom. And that's what's really happening. And so it's not just energy, it's not just weapons, it's all of the above. It can be used for R&D, it can be used for medical devices, it can use for us to actually colonize other planets, but there are so many other use cases. We were about to have nuclear powered batteries, you know, that's been in R&D forever. Nuclear powered cars, like there are so many different use cases. So stop looking at it as one thing or the other, weapons or energy. It is an entire reaction at the molecular level, at the core of the atom.